You're listening to DraftKings Network.
It's the Kia Summer Sticker Sales Event, so give your friends something to look at, like a B&B with an ocean view, an endless field of wildflowers, or a sunset that needs no filter. Make this a summer to share and save with a capable Kia SUV or powerful sedan. See your local Kia dealer or visit kia.com to learn more. Kia, movement that inspires.
Call 800-3334-KIA for details. Always drive safely. Sale applies to purchase of specially tagged 2024 vehicles only. Quantities are limited. Must take delivery by 7/8/24.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Lebitard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Panther fans, some breaking news on the old social media front. It appears as though the Panthers, who had already been reported, they're working on an extension with Carter Verhaeghe. They have just officially announced the Sam Reinhart, Sweetheart hometown discount deal. And now it appears as though they're moving to lock in Sam Bennett, who, a lot like Carter Verhaeghe, had another year on his deal, but you act now as there's championship glow, and it locks in your cap going forward. There's some cap money to play with in the coming years. Ekblad comes off the books next year. We'll see what happens there. There were rumors that he was being shopped around, but Elliot Friedman came out and said he hadn't heard that, Roy.
I'm also interested in what they're going to do with Aaron Ekblad. His contract is expiring as well, and they're also still paying one more year to Keith Yandel. That's dead cap space for him. That's the one last year of his buyout.
Yeah, well, I was actually asking you specifically about the Ekblad thing. There were reports out there he was being shopped. There's been some pushback on that by some really reputable reporters. Aaron Ekblad's at 7.5. I think he had a no-move clause that turns into a no-trade. I'm not really sure I know what the difference is. I don't think they're going to be waiving.
Well, it's the teams that he wants to go to, so he would waive that. Yeah.
And Bob also comes off your books in 2 years. But locking in a guy like Sam Bennett, a nice little identity that the Florida Panthers have kind of figured out here. It's not unlike the Dallas Mavericks back in their heyday. Take a highly touted guy that maybe didn't fulfill his promise. See if you can get him to fulfill that promise in your under your banner, or maybe turn that guy who was touted to be a superstar and turn him more into a role guy. I think that would be selling Sam Bennett short, because I think Sam Bennett had stretches during this postseason where he was among the best skaters on the ice. He was a highly touted prospect coming in. This was a guy that found his way on the fourth line in Calgary, came here, has that edge to him. And I will say, I don't want to break down any preconceived notions about Sam Bennett, because I think Paul Maurice already did that by saying, I saw him smile for the first time in 2 years after winning Game 7. I got a hug from Sam Bennett at 11, and it was one of the more shocking experiences of my life, because that dude does not give that off. But he was standing on top of speakers saying, you know why he gave me a hug?
Why?
Because Aaron Ekblad turned his ankle stepping down from the section that we were at with Izzy.
That man has so many foot problems.
He didn't see a step. It's a tricky step. And I grabbed him by the armpit and I pulled him back. I might have saved his NHL career. He gave me a hug after I did that. And I think Sam Bennett, recognizing what had happened there in a moment of clarity, turned to me and either is a huge fan of the show, which I doubt, or wanted to just genuinely thank me for making sure that Aaron Ekblad didn't get hurt, gave me a hug. And it is one of the more outside. You're in that class, Roy. Dudes that will give me an embrace that'll stun me a little bit because I did not know that they were capable. This must be a special moment. Sam Bennett is in that Roy class.
Yes.
Are we bringing back Kevin Stenlund?
I think so. I think they need him for the penalty kill.
Yeah.
You think so? Because I kind of.
Of course we are.
It
would be
really
a crime
important
to have him not come back.
Number one, I don't know if you saw that photo of Kevin Stenlund floating in the pool with Lord Stanley. He looks like Thor. He is a handsome devil. And he proved himself to be a huge part of this team's penalty kill. He's one of the best penalty killers at that position, at the top of that blue line, killing a penalty. in the entire league. It just so happens he's on penalty kill unit 2 because he's got Barkov ahead of him there. But I would really love to bring Kevin Stinlin back. He had the moment without the stick, giving it his all, trying to punch at the puck. Monster number 2 needs to be back down here.
The biggest penalty kill in franchise history.
There were a couple against the Edmonton Oilers where the puck was in their zone for 2 minutes and they had key guys on their penalty kill in the box and they had to find a way to get a stop. The overwhelming thing, and I promise you, this is the end of our Panther coverage unless there's breaking news. I promise you. The overwhelming thing that washed over me watching the parade from home, outside of me understanding that the local news at some point just had to give up on the dump button altogether.
So many fines.
And PLG just decided they're just going to put up a graphic warning folks that there was going to be some saucy language over there. I was watching that, and I was like, I seeing all these guys having the time of their life. Aaron Ekblad with the cone on his head, getting to have that moment over Brooks Koepka. They almost blew this.
Yeah.
They almost threw all of this away with the most historic collapse in a final in team sports history, in modern era. Because I was telling Dan, like, the gulf between the Spectrum Ren headed into that Game 7, your crowning achievement as a professional, your first Stanley Cup in franchise history, what you might be associated, for better or worse, what you might be associated with for the rest of your career. When they introduce Aaron Ekblad at functions decades from now, he's going to be Stanley Cup winner Aaron Ekblad. That was what was on one side of the spectrum. What was on the other side was biggest choker in the history of team sports. You're not going to be able to avoid this. They're going to throw your graphic up there when they're talking about Major League Baseball playoffs and teams blowing leads. Your graphic, your brand is going to be synonymous with choking.
Speaking of throwing graphics up, not to intrude on this wonderful, but you guys was about to do a billboard in Edmonton and couldn't get it done. Jason Tatum put a billboard out here on Miami Beach and said, "Don't stop disbelieving." Neither here nor there, but he got his billboard up.
Right. So I think that was Jordan that did that.
It was Jason Tatum on the picture.
Yeah, it was Jason Tatum doing it. So I don't think Jason Tatum was calling like Clear Channel.
I'm pretty sure you can make jokes, but a Jason Tatum billboard was in Miami, and he got that done. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, Jordan.
It just doesn't make sense to make fun of people's celebrations. Like, you know what I mean? I want to bring it full circle because we had a lot to say about the celebration, and people around the world have a lot to say about Miami's celebration. And I think that it's all goofy. Like, I don't give a damn if it's one. I wish one person would have came to the Panthers parade yesterday so we can be just as happy because it doesn't matter. You're a loser if you're at the house and you care about our parade.
Getting back to our celebration, you mentioned FCC fines and all the F-bombs. Well, we have Paul Maurice. We had the video of that, and that was spectacular.
I need his T-shirt here in this clip.
Years. 30 years. For every one of you, 30 years. For that woman over there, 30 years of being married to an I want to, in my wildest dreams, I've never would have thought I could see this. Seriously, understand this. Everybody that we love in this world is happy right now.
My head coach was lit.
That line was awesome.
That's the most Canadian he's ever looked, wearing those shorts with that hat, walking around Fort Lauderdale Beach with a drink in his hand. He looked extra Canadian there. But I do think that Juju opened up the path to actually getting these billboards there. Have CCM or Raising Cane's or somebody sponsor the board for Matthew Tkachuk and have them say Greg Cody was right, because they absolutely got in through the back door with that Tatum billboard by just saying, yeah, Jordan wants some ad space over here.
Talk to me, Juju. I know some billboard people.
Hey,
we can make some stuff happen.
Exactly. I just want to stop shaming it.
No, ain't no shame. We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen because I got the plug. Wait, hold on. Are we doing Tatum or are we doing Greg Cody billboards? Which one?
We've been doing hockey for about
Juju
3
mentioned
hours.
that Tatum got a billboard down here.
Yeah.
I pointed out that he got a billboard down here not because Jason Tatum was doing what Dan was doing, which was calling around mom and pop shops, but because Jordan has a marketing budget and the plugs already. So we need to find a similar way.
Like DraftKings.
I'm telling you right now, I have the plug. I have the billboard plug. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
All you guys do is ask. All you got to do is ask. See,
Well,
the problem with
Can we ask for Dan? I personally never want to see those billboards go up. I think it's a
Greg
bad
Cody
look.
billboards?
I think it's a bad look for us. So like, if the show wants to do it now that the job is done, go for it. Florida Panthers, as we've covered throughout this entire local hour so far, they've got a lot working against them. Don't need other people having that ammunition. But if you want to go nuts with the billboards now that you've won,
what are you
do it.
What are you saying?
I just think it doesn't.
Why is it a bad
give
look?
off
Hold on.
class?
It's too cool for us, guys.
We're the classy
That's what I'm
outfit
saying.
now. That's what we do here.
I think that we weren't on a float.
The goalpost moves every week with this company. It's like, can I be emotional? Can I be mean? Can I be happy? Can I stand here? What are we doing?
I'm always me.
Lithium. That's what we're doing. We're all doing lithium.
All right. So how does the show get a billboard?
How does you talk to me?
I'm talking to you.
Okay.
I'm asking
I don't have to reveal how the sausage gets made. Just all you got to know is the sausage is on the plate, and that's it.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you get delayed in your travels?
Yeah.
What happened?
Flew out from SFO, and there were mechanical issues, so we were on the tarmac for a while.
It's going around.
Did they use a YouTube video to fix it? Because Tony and I's flight to Austin for South by Southwest, we were in the Turkish lounge watching some guy watch a YouTube video. While
he went from like vertical to he went to the side so you could really see like what it was, so that way he can like get it in.
No way.
Yeah, I promise
swear
you.
to God.
He was right underneath the engine. He had it like kind of like up like this. He had it like this, and he was trying to turn it for a while, and then he finally turned it. He was like, oh, and then he started screwing the arm in.
That's when you got to do the Grandpa Abe Simpson and just walk back out.
Tony just started wolfing down free brownies. We were like, this is going to end poorly. But we made it.
What kind of brownies?
Free ones.
Sam Bennett, Roy. Sam Bennett, bro. Back to what you was saying.
Yeah, him on the second line with Kachuk on his wing. Man, top 6 forwards for the Panthers. It's best in the league, man. I'm very happy that they're going to try to re-sign him here.
Wait, Roy wasn't on a float?
Nobody was on the float. No meeting was on the float.
No, because of the shenanigans that the show pulled over the last few months. The checks came back. It did not clear because of our general approach to hockey.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. The impact of social media on mental health is a topic of growing concern. What do you do when you get caught up wishing your life looked like someone else's? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their social media, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who have experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/DLB.
Dan Le Batard.
Amino Hassan.
Stugotz.
Amino acid.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Big NBA transaction. Jeremy, what can you tell us about it?
Isaiah Hartenstein has signed with the Oklahoma City Thunder on a 3-year, $87 million contract.
There it is, Knicks fans.
Man, he likes it here. No, he's friends with the guys here. No, some things are more important than money.
That shirt just went away, Sam Morrill. That shirt does not matter no more. Salute, my bad, Jess.
How much did the second apron play into this, Amin?
Oh, enough. The second apron.
Tell us about the aprons.
There's only one apron that matters. The one that he's wiping his money-hungry hands on. Like, oh, yeah, I got all this dirt from all these millions I've been counting. Look, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the barbecue?
Yeah, it's saucy. It's saucy millions.
It's Oklahoma.
The most the Knicks could offer, apron or not, 4 years, $72 million. The most. Nick Claxton got $100 million. At that point, I said, kiss it goodbye.
Yeah.
There's no way he looks across the river, sees a guy that he says, well, I'm better than him, I play on a better team, and he's going to get 25 a year, and I'm going to take 16. No chance in hell. And I had to hear all this stuff about, but he likes the guys, and he enjoys playing with them, and you can't put a price on friendship. I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Who was that right there? Who just imitated?
Taylor.
That's Taylor.
Oh, nice, nice.
Taylor. Sorry, you are the Knick fan of our lives, so that's how we're going to do it. No, man, that's like this. Every year we go through this. Every year in the NBA, there's a free agent on a team, and it's like, hey, the most he can offer him is this, but his market value is going to be somewhere around here. And there are these people who delude themselves into thinking, no,
he likes us.
They you can't put a price on. Yes, you can. His whole life is about maximizing how much money he can make in a very small window of time.
Well, occasionally, someone like maybe Sam Reinhart in another sport will take the friendly team deal.
Gustav Forsling did do that, and I think you take the team-friendly deals when you're close to winning a championship, and maybe, just maybe, inside of league circles, they don't think the Knicks are as close to a title as Knicks fans feel.
I just want to point out, I like how we're on this plane, and the plane is, there's all sorts of alarms, and we're about to crash, and I grab the steering wheel and said, come on, I'll take you to salvation. And we fly towards NBA free agency, and just like, no, hockey again.
Oh, come on, man. That's not fair.
I do want to address
last day. It's not fair, Roy. It's been 8 years of hockey in the last 2 weeks.
Jesus Christ. I mean, it's free agency time, man. Come on.
I know, for the NBA.
But for
New
the
York,
NHL.
New York isn't exactly a tax-free state. There's been this huge notion from a lot of NHL fans. Tampa got hit with this a lot when they were winning. Is that, well, you got to do something about these state tax teams. They have an unfair advantage.
That's what Maple Leaf fans are saying.
They have an unfair advantage, and I will say it's a different story altogether for the Canadian teams than it is for those in the United States. But someone should do something about this.
No.
To which I say they do. All right, Sam Reinhart's home that he's going to fetch for $8 million down here in South Florida would look a hell of a lot different than if it were in Columbus, Ohio. Like there's a whole cost of living aspect here,
including it being underwater.
Yeah, there's give me the cost of living in Columbus, Ohio, if you want to complain about the state tax here. Let me buy a house for the value that I would get it at Columbus, Ohio, if you have an issue with the state tax thing. Cost of living does factor into these things. And also, it's not like he's not going to be getting state taxes when they play in the New York area.
That's the other part. Right?
It's just for 50% of their games.
It's an inherent incompetence about how any of this shit works. It's just like, oh, but they got no state income taxes. Okay, first of all, they still got federal taxes, which is the majority of your tax you're paying. But plus, any road game you play, most of these states now have enacted the jock tax.
Yeah.
Which is anytime these performers, singers, comedians, and athletes come to your state, they're getting taxed there. And so 41 road games, guess what happens on the salary earned in those games?
That being said, if there's an NHL lifer that just gets moved to one of the two Florida teams and they have a home stretch for about 10 days, they look at their check and they're like, did someone make a mistake? Because so much money usually gets taken out of those things.
It's probably, you know what's interesting? I wonder what happens if, like, I never play a road game. Right? Like if some old long in the
or Kyrie, where he never had to play a home game in Brooklyn. But he could play
right, like this,
on the road trips.
I'd love to talk to an accountant. If you're an accountant, call us on the show.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the Oklahoma City aspect to this move because I really
talk about the aprons. Will someone please just tell me about the aprons? I mean,
what is the tax apron?
I don't feel comfortable about Jess asking about aprons.
I think she wants to put people in that position.
Oh.
The only apron that she should be talking about is the one she wears when she makes me a sandwich.
She wears an apron to make a sandwich?
I like what the Thunder are doing.
Good sandwiches.
Adding Caruso especially. This is a team that needed some of those veterans to help do some of those dirtier things that can help you win a title. Those are good glue guys. Those are good role players. I really like Oklahoma City after these moves.
You know what they did? They're baking the cake at 400 degrees. I love it. I use this analogy every year, right? Particularly with the young teams, right? The instructions say bake the cake 400 degrees for 20 minutes. A lot of times organizations, after a little bit of success, are like, crank it to 800 and it'll be done in 10. And that's how they mess everything up. And the Thunder are like, no, let it bake.
Are the Knicks cranking it up to 800?
Man, 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges is cranking it up.
I kind of feel that way, too.
It was a combination of two different analogies. One is they cranked it up to 800 degrees. Two is they're doing the dice thing too much. They're going into that. Oh, Villanova, that works, right?
Yeah.
Oh, give me Villanova.
It works with these role player guys. What if we have a team all of role players from Villanova?
Villanova, Omari Spellman, Villanova. What about Sadiq Bey?
Arcadiacino.
Yeah. Sadiq Bey somewhere like he's like, I don't know.
Boys,
if I
what
got
up?
Bars.
Where we at?
Do I have bars? I don't know, man. Man, let me. What's the Wi-Fi again? They haven't hit me up yet.
5G?
Well, with the Knicks now, I mean, so it's 3 years, $87 million for Hartenstein to go to Oklahoma City. With the Knicks, you now look at their trade, and by having to lose Hartenstein, it's sort of like they included him in that deal. So you look at Isaiah Hartenstein, Bojan Bogdanovic, 5 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Mikal Bridges. I think that the Knicks got better in terms of acquiring Bridges. I praised the trade last week. But did they get significantly better with this move?
It's a little intellectually.
You also had to bring back OG.
It's a little intellectually disingenuous because it doesn't matter whether they do the deal or not. Early bird rights for Hartenstein. They can only offer him a deal.
So it wasn't going to happen regardless.
It was like the only way it was going to happen was if the kindness of his dumb old heart.
Perfect.
Like I would, but I love it here, and that's what they were banking their whole thing in. Or this would be a more radical approach if they had renounced a bunch of stuff and gone under the cap and then used cap space to sign him.
I guess the question still
You could have also done like a really short-term year, right?
Yeah, sure.
But no NBA agent would say that's a good idea.
But even if he did a 1 year deal to get to full bird rights next year, it would be a 1 year deal for $16 million versus 3 years, 87, with a team that looks like they're going to be running the sport
they're going to
for
be
the next 5 years.
So maybe intellectually dishonest to make it all sort of like one move.
Yeah.
But the question, I guess, still remains of how much better did the Knicks get considering what the transactions are?
They lost Hartenstein, and now Mitchell Robinson, who was their original starter, but has had an injury history throughout his career. That's now you're hanging all your hopes on that. So you've got to figure out what you're going to do to get a 5. Now, the part where the deal does come into play is how much they can offer Precious Achiuwa because of the hard cap enacted by the apron if they're taking in more money than they give out. So they've got to rework that deal, which means they might lose Deuce McBride. These are all the kind of things that in the margins people don't want to hear about. They're kind of boring, but like these are the counting things that will end up there. Well, why do we have to let him go? Because this, and this.
Let's bring in Jake Fischer from Yahoo Sports, who does a great job covering the NBA, who you know a little bit, to talk about some of these recent moves. And our show can finally chew on this Paul George thing that happened overnight. Paul George to the Sixers. I already saw the who can stop these guys graphic, and I was looking at the knees in particular. I was maybe fixating, maybe circle the knees.
Circle of the Olympics 2024, Joel Embiid. What are you doing?
So Paul George now joins Maxey, who I think got a max deal. Is that a part of the?
He got a maxi deal.
He got a maxi
4
deal.
for 204.
Look, I mean, Philadelphia added to a team that, again, health is always going to be the question there. But I think it's a good fit for Paul George. I'm curious to know Jake's thoughts here. So let's start right there, Jake, and welcome aboard the show. Let's start with the headliner move so far of this offseason. Paul George to Philadelphia. Your immediate thoughts?
This was kind of the Sixers' plan for 2024 free agency, starting as early as 2023 free agency when James Harden opted in and requested a trade. The Sixers made this plan. This is Daryl Morey's like master pipe dream of trying to trade him and only taking back 1 year contracts to then get into the open market this summer and be the only winning team with max cap space. And they did it. Like Daryl Morey did it again. As much as people want to talk, crap on him and make fun of his calculators and his spreadsheets, like this was the vision and this was their guy all along, and they got him. It's like kind of been like a 300-day approach for this guy.
So was this vengeance?
A little bit. I mean, look, the other aspect of this, James Harden gets traded to the Clippers. The Sixers get back Clippers picks, and then they made the Clippers monumentally worse by bringing back Paul George. It's crazy.
So you touched on some of the reasons why this may be, but the Clippers put out like a weird statement.
Yes, they did.
I guess acknowledging Paul George's time there, and it really just felt like that's what it was, an acknowledgement that he existed in their uniform, and largely failed. There was a lot of gamesmanship that played out in the media. It was just like, 10 days ago, where I think Woj reported that the Sixers were cooling on the idea of bringing Paul George aboard. So what do you make of how this played out and the Clippers' reaction to it?
The Clippers' statement and what Lawrence Frank had already said publicly about this, about the CBA, it can sound like an excuse, but I do think it's a reason. And what it is that it's not just that this new second apron brings, tax penalties, because Steve Ballmer could pay out the wazoo to front any team. The issues are the cap now, the rules with it hamstring a team and limit you from getting better. And what happens is if you pay into the second apron for 3 out of 5 years, which is exactly what would have happened if the Clippers brought back all of Kawhi, James Harden, and Paul George on the 3-year contracts. They would have had a pick frozen in the future and stuck in the back of the first round. They wouldn't have been able to aggregate salaries to get better. They wouldn't have had trade exceptions, and they couldn't have signed and traded and what have you. And the Clippers were afraid of paying for this team to compete in the West for 3 years and then be stuck for the next 4 from 2027 to 2032 in this brand new stadium with no means to get better and an absolute, shit team. So that was kind of their fear here. They were saving themselves now from a potential doomsday future. And the cost is definitely Paul George. If they gave him a 4-year deal remotely close to this, I think he would have stayed in LA.
Forget what the calendar says. Football season is right around the corner. And that means Best Ball Week at DraftKings isn't far behind. DraftKings Best Ball Millionaire Contest is the biggest fantasy contest ever at DraftKings. 15 million guaranteed prize pool, with not 1 but 2 millionaires being crowned for first and second place. DraftKings is offering everyone a draft one get one free special. Your $20 entry fee scores you a bonus ticket. Enter for a shot to be one of 2 millionaires crowned by DraftKings. Download the DraftKings app and use code Dan. That's code Dan for all customers who enter the NFL Best Ball $15 million contest to get a bonus ticket. Only during Best Ball Week. Only on DraftKings.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 and over in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. 1 per customer. Enter the Best Ball $15 million contest by 9/5/24 to get 1 bonus entry. $20 entry fee required. Reward expires at contest lock on 9/5/24. See terms at DraftKings.com/DFS.
Don Batard.
You getting started on the breakfast flan?
Oh, man. I've been singing the song to myself all morning long. Breakfast flan.
Stugotz.
Have you never heard the breakfast flan song?
No, hit me with it.
Okay. I wish I had some breakfast flan. Breakfast flan. Where can I find a breakfast like that?
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Sticking with the Clippers, Jake, you were one of the first people to report that Russell Westbrook will be worked into a trade somewhere. Typically, when you see a guy opt into a deal and then immediately traded, it was probably a conversation that was made between the agent, the player, and the team, kind of an agreement. Why would Russell Westbrook do that? Why wouldn't he just test free agency?
To your point, there's definitely, I think, a collaborative process there with the agency XL Sports and the Clippers trying to find him a new home. The only read I have on it right now is that he wasn't necessarily certain that Russell Westbrook was going to get more than the minimum. And the minimum this year for him is 3.6. So that's a cool $400K that he made sure he got. And it's a thing all around the league right now. Chris Paul signing with San Antonio. He avoids a situation like he would have had to in Phoenix or LA where he would have been on the minimum. And that's a cold, hard reality for a lot of veterans once they do decline. Once you get on a minimum contract, it's really, really hard to get above it. And that $400,000 gap, that's not nothing for these guys, even though they've made $100 million throughout their career, $200 million throughout their career. So I think there was some appropriate fear, I guess, or skepticism on their side that he was going to actually have opportunities above that minimum number.
One of the big names that's going to be on the move, we just don't know where, is Klay Thompson. The Warriors haven't put out a weird statement, but they've we've gotten the flags that his time is done.
There's some traction out there for Dallas. And that is like such a Dallas Mavericks pickup. Is so their identity. Let's turn a superstar into a role player type of guy. And he could really help.
He could help, and they have that Tim Hardaway traded player exception that they can, if they can work something out, they can get him in. Jake, what are the odds that he's wearing a Dallas Mavericks uniform at the start of next season?
I really do think right now it's between Dallas and the Lakers, where they both can kind of basically give him the same type of salary structure, somewhere around the mid-level exception. So it's just a matter of figuring out which scenario. I mean, the Lakers, I think, is more direct. They wouldn't need any type of sign and trade, I don't believe. And Dallas has options to do that. But I've been told by the cap nerds I know that Dallas can clear a way to just get their full mid-level as well and bring him in without that complication. But, Philly's been looming on the periphery here too. They've got Paul Reed's contract that is $8 million and non-guaranteed. They could waive him. They could use him in a sign and trade too. So I'm not totally discounting the Sixers either, but overnight and, so far early this morning, the word has definitely been that he's deciding between Dallas and the Lakers. And I think objectively, Dallas is clearly more positioned to help Klay Thompson compete for his 5th championship. So I think if winning ultimately rules the day, it's going to be Dallas. It's going to be you go.
How did Orlando fall out of this? Is it just because they went and got KCP? Because I'm looking at their roster.
It's a nice move for them.
That is a nice move, but I'm thinking like, a Jonathan Isaac sign and trade doesn't get Klay Thompson done to Orlando.
Yeah. And Orlando was also sniffing around this Paul George thing as well. They were in play there. What do we make of Orlando?
So Orlando, I honestly don't believe was ever really a Klay Thompson team. I think they definitely wanted a guard. They gave that money to KCP. They were absolutely looking at Malik Monk, but Klay, approaching 35, doesn't exactly fit the timeline as well as KCP, even though KCP I think is 32, so he's not, a spring chicken like Franz and Paolo, but he, I think, fits more so from like a long-term and not a wheels falling off trajectory that Klay has kind of shown of late. So I mean, honestly, it was probably sometime last week, I checked in with someone from Golden State and I said, hey, I think this KCP Orlando thing is real. I don't think Klay has a home. And they said, yeah, we've been trying to tell people all along this Magic thing isn't legit. It just kind of leveraged that his side was trying to create. So, and honestly, I haven't said this publicly yet. I don't really think Paul George was really so real for Orlando too. That might have been some type of quid pro quo. Orlando gets a meeting, quote unquote, and it helps Orlando look good. And it helps Paul have some type of leverage as well. It's not just Philly. Like, I haven't gotten it confirmed at this juncture that Orlando even met with Paul George and that there even was a meeting scheduled, but there was just some kind of loose interest that could have happened and benefited both sides there.
Jake, buddy, we started this off wrong. Your energy is all low. How are you doing, man? I know this is the worst time of the year because it's like you don't get to sleep. Yeah, you're by your phone all the time. Tell me about your personal life during free agency.
So last night I actually got like my first night's sleep of more than 5 hours in probably 2 weeks.
Same.
Because the draft, that's another thing too. Like everyone was kind of saying yesterday on Twitter, oh, the new CBA cooled the early rush out the gates. No, the fact that the draft ended Thursday and free agency ended Sunday, as opposed to like usually there's a week for all these deals to, illegally get figured out. So we didn't have that run up here. And it's been good. We got a new foster rescue that we foster failed, Arugula. She's in the house. So that's been nice.
Arugula?
Arugula. We call her Rugi. So everything's been good over here.
I love it.
Hold on. Can you give a foster a nickname? Because now it's all confused when it goes to its actual home.
No, we failed. We adopted her. She's ours now.
Okay.
She's my daughter. I'm a dad.
Oh, okay. All right.
Arugula.
Congratulations. Green type of person, but that's a cute name.
Yeah.
Spinach.
Rugi. Honestly, in a class with kale. Overrated. More aesthetically pleasing than tasty.
It's peppery, though.
The rooster.
Jake, I do want to ask you, we know that Philadelphia is remaining aggressive, and I really wish that the Miami Heat would take a lesson from that recent aggression that Philadelphia's had. They are very quiet right now. They are bringing back Kevin Love. Again, same scenario playing out here for the Miami Heat. The rest of the East is getting better. Tobias Harris, by the way, goes to Detroit. That just broke.
Ew!
Yeah, I think, what is he pulling?
2 for 52.
What is Detroit doing, man?
2 for 52.
Dude is printing money. Printing money, Tobias Harris.
That is Detroit signing a piece that they will trade next year because in the
100%.
NBA, like bad contracts have this bizarro value. So they're just a way station right now. But Houston, along with the Miami Heat, are these teams that we heard could be players this summer, have the capital to get something done. Right now, we're just seeing the names that we know about. Is there any chance that some superstars that we don't necessarily know are available on the market can find themselves to the Houstons, to the Miamis of the world?
So quick note on Tobias. This is also a sneaky way for the Pistons to spend a lot of the cap that they have to spend to reach 90% of the salary floor.
I don't think it's sneaky. That has to be what's going on here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Washington did it too. Like Jonas Valanciunas, starting center for the worst place Washington
I thought
Wizards.
I was getting pranked when I saw the Jonas
Hold
Valanciunas
on.
thing.
Before we move on to answer Mike's question, I had to say, because you brought up Valanciunas.
Yeah.
He was the best center on the market between him and Hartenstein.
No, Isaiah was. Hartenstein was, man. How dare you?
If I'm Jonas Valanciunas, I'm looking at my resume and I'm looking at his resume and say, I have more to show that I can do this.
But Jonas's arrow is not pointing up the way that Isaiah's is.
Sure, but like also, I am what I am right now.
Yeah.
If there's a part where we're saying, hey, who are you sure can replicate what he did this last season? It's the guy who's done it 3 or 4 or 5 years, not the guy who did it for half a season. Why did he take less than mid-level?
I don't know. Has there been someone who's gotten the full mid-level yet? I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're past. I mean, if that happens, if it did happen, I apologize. But every team I spoke to before free agency repeatedly said, oh yeah, if we can get this guy at 9-10 and still leave like, 3-4 million left to use as a traded player exception or to sign somebody else. We're in this new era now where the mid-level is so high that I don't think any team I spoke to had any plans of using that full amount.
But 10 seems criminally low when you look at the other centers on the market, what they've gotten.
If he didn't get that, honestly, I think he was looking at the minimum in certain scenarios.
Yeah. Given where he is in his career. But back to the original question, Miami,
The original
Houston.
question, Miami, Houston.
Miami, Houston. Are these franchises actually going to do something with the trade capital that they've been reserving?
The problem that Houston saw at number 3 and that Portland saw the year before at number 3 and that, Cleveland has seen in past years and Golden State when they had 7 and 14, there just aren't a lot of players right now that are available that are, on a bad team. Like Lauri Markkanen is probably the one guy that I think has actual possibility to get traded. But if you want him, the Jazz are going to look at what Mikal Bridges just got. They're going to look at what they got for Donovan Mitchell and when they got for Rudy Gobert, and they're going to say, give us 5-6 unprotected picks. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be something a team wants to do unless they really figure out and believe that Lauri Markkanen is the missing piece. I've heard Golden State and San Antonio and Sacramento as the teams that have most checked on him. But at this point, I think it's still a little touch too early to have. The Jazz can still renegotiate and extend Lauri Markkanen that begins as early as August 6th. And every indication I've had is that they're trying to do that and add to him right now. But that's the guy. So that's the only guy I think. Donovan Mitchell's going back to Cleveland. Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's not worth that type of stuff. Why isn't
the Mitchell thing happened yet? Because a lot of Heat fans are holding out hope. I know your point is a good one, that there aren't really superstar malcontents on bad teams right now. I would say there are a couple of bad teams that don't necessarily realize they're bad, but they're in unique situations. Tell Ishbia that they're not going to be competitive. It's hard to reason with them right now. So conventional wisdom would say sit back and wait for some of these teams to do bad. However, if Miami goes another offseason with letting the rest of the Eastern Conference lap them, and even in their own division getting worse inside of that, I don't know if this fan base, which has been pretty patient with Pat, I'll take that back, hasn't been very patient. But now that the Celtics finally won their title, you're in chase mode. How logical is it that the Miami Heat are going to practice patience here? Because that would go over like a lead balloon.
Yeah, and they might lose both Haywood Highsmith and Caleb Martin, depending on how things go. The biggest thing about the Tobias Harris news that broke while we've been on here, excuse me, my first thought was, okay, well, that was a big Caleb Martin possibility. Excuse me. So, Does he go back? I mean, the word has been he's been looking for that type of money, a 2-year, $20 million a year AAV type of thing. Haywood Highsmith's looking for the full mid-level, which we talked about earlier, not necessarily so available out there. So like the opportunity cost for them to, find a richer thing somewhere else, I'm not sure if that's going to be worth those guys not going back to Miami. But if they do, like, is that enough too? Like, are you, to your point, Mike, are you like, parading down to the Casillas Center because you brought back Haywood Highsmith and Caleb Martin? I don't think those moves compare to what the top of the East has done. I think you're right. Like, it's going to be a matter of swallowing a patience pill and hoping that Phoenix blows up, hoping that, other situations become awry. I think that's it right now.
The good news is Miami is no stranger to swallowing pills.
Yes. Jake, we thank you for your time. Real quick, 5 seconds or less. What happens with LeBron?
He takes a pay cut depending on the caliber of guy. If they get Klay, he'll take less. But I don't think anyone if they get Brook, maybe. But
Haywood Highsmith,
he's going back to the Lakers. Yeah,
you taking a pay cut for Haywood Highsmith?
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting to the point where I'm going to start overreacting to Haywood Highsmith leaving.
Oh my God!
If Miami keeps getting their lunch taken. Thank you so much, Jake. Check the stuff out for Yahoo Sports, senior NBA reporter. Happy summer, everybody! It's Mike Ryan. As you know, I'm a big fan of Miller Lite. I tell you about it all the time. It's summer, and it is the perfect time to be grilling out there. Whether you're smoking, you're barbecuing, you're using charcoal or propane, please do so with a Miller Lite right next to you, because it is what should be at the center of every backyard event this summer season. Even if you're not doing the grilling, do it with a Miller Lite, because any good time is made better by making it a Miller time. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, tastes as great as your barbecue, and it's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. With a Miller Lite in hand, grilling doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces.